The city of Zarathus stretched like a jewel under two suns, its towers glinting with colors that shifted with every movement of the light. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes moved along the wide skywalks, their footsteps silent on the glowing pavement. Among the aliens, humans were rare. And today, one human had stepped into the heart of Zarathus without knowing what he might face. Ethan paused at the edge of the central plaza, staring up at the enormous structures. He had traveled far from his home planet, a small human colony known for its perseverance, to study alien cultures. But nothing in his training had prepared him for this. The plaza was alive with a rush of motion, alien voices blending into a sound that was more music than language. As he took a careful step forward, his attention was caught by a group of young aliens gathered near a fountain that glowed with liquid light. One of them, a girl with long silver hair and eyes like polished emerald, noticed Ethan immediately. She laughed quietly to herself, tilting her head. Lyra, as she was known, had a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. She enjoyed teasing newcomers, especially ones as unusual as Ethan. The human's awkward posture and nervous glance were irresistible. "Look at that one," she whispered to her friends, her voice ringing with amusement. "Does he even know which way to walk?" Ethan, unaware of the attention, tried to adjust the strap of his bag. It slipped slightly, and he nearly stumbled. Lyra's friends giggled, and she stepped closer, her movements smooth and confident. "Hello, human," she said in a sing-song voice, mocking the way she imagined his words would sound. "Are you lost, or are you just scared of us?" Ethan turned, startled by the sudden attention. He forced a polite smile. I am Ethan," he said. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. "I mean no trouble. I'm just here to learn." Lyra raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "Learn?" she repeated, drawing out the word. "From us? You think humans can learn from us?" Her laughter was soft but sharp, like a blade brushing against silk. Ethan took a deep breath. He had been mocked before, but never by a creature as strange and beautiful as Lyra, and never in a city that seemed alive in every corner. "I may be human," he said slowly, "but humans are clever. We can find solutions in ways others might not expect." Lyra tilted her head, intrigued despite herself. "Clever?" she repeated. "We shall see." She motioned to a nearby display of small hover crates, each carrying glowing orbs of energy. "If you are clever, human, perhaps you can handle these without breaking them." Ethan's eyes narrowed with determination. He stepped toward the crates, noting the soft hum of the energy orbs. His human instincts told him to observe first, then act. The aliens around the plaza leaned in, curious to see what the human would do. A sudden misstep caused one of the crates to wobble dangerously. Ethan lunged forward, catching it just before it hit the ground. He steadied it carefully, balancing it in his arms while keeping the others from tipping over. A small crowd of aliens watched silently, their surprise hidden behind polite expressions. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. This was not what she had expected. The human was fast and careful, using his own body and clever thinking rather than relying on technology. She bit her lip, a small sign of interest that she didn't want anyone else to see. "Not bad," she said finally, her tone softer than before. "But don't think one lucky save makes you impressive." Ethan straightened, a quiet smile forming. "I don't rely on luck," he said simply. "I rely on thinking, and humans are good at thinking." Lyra laughed again, this time without malice. "Bold words for such a small creature," she said. Her eyes glimmered with curiosity. "Perhaps we shall see if you can prove them." Just then, a loud alarm rang out across the plaza. A transport drone carrying heavy supplies had gone off course. The drone swung dangerously close to a group of younger aliens playing near the fountain. Panic spread like wildfire, and Ethan didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, calculating the drone's path in seconds. Using the straps on his bag and his quick reflexes, he climbed a nearby support beam, then leapt toward the drone. With a careful grab, he twisted the controls and stabilized it, allowing it to land safely without harming anyone. The plaza fell silent. Even Lyra's friends were momentarily speechless. Lyra herself froze, her emerald eyes wide with astonishment. The human had just done what she had never imagined possible. You stopped it," she whispered. Her voice was almost inaudible, a mix of disbelief and awe. How did you do that?" Ethan climbed down, breathing hard but keeping his composure. "Humans survive by thinking fast and using what we have," he said quietly. "Sometimes we don't have the luxury of waiting for help. We act." Lyra opened her mouth to tease him again, but no words came. The playful mockery that had been ready on her tongue vanished, replaced by a strange curiosity. She studied Ethan more closely now, noticing the sharp focus in his eyes, the calm in his hands even in danger. This was not a creature to be underestimated. For the first time, Lyra felt something unfamiliar, a hint of respect. She had spent her life seeing humans as small and fragile, creatures who could not hope to compete with aliens in skill or intelligence. But now, seeing Ethan act with courage and cleverness, she realized she had been wrong. The crowd slowly resumed its chatter, murmuring about the human who had stopped the drone. Some aliens even nodded to each other, recognizing the quick thinking it had taken. Lyra's pride did not allow her to admit it openly yet, but her mind raced. Who was this human? And where did he come from that he could act like this? Ethan brushed a speck of dust from his shirt and glanced at Lyra. "I hope I have not caused too much trouble," he said politely. Lyra forced a smile, though it did not reach her eyes. "Trouble?" she repeated, her voice light but thoughtful. "No. Perhaps you are interesting." She paused, studying him for a long moment. "Very interesting, human." Ethan tilted his head, sensing both curiosity and challenge in her tone. "Interesting is good," he said, with a small smile. "It means you might learn something from me." Lyra blinked at him, unsure how to respond. She was used to mocking aliens, to being the clever one in every interaction. But Ethan, he did not act like anyone she had met. He was bold, thoughtful, and surprisingly capable. The silver-haired girl turned to her friends, who were whispering excitedly. "Keep watching him," she said softly. "This human, I think we will see more than we expect." As the crowd dispersed, Ethan continued exploring the plaza, careful not to attract too much attention, but still observing everything around him. He noticed how the aliens moved, how their society functioned, and how technology blended seamlessly with life. Every detail mattered, and every moment was a chance to learn. Lyra followed him from a distance, curiosity burning brighter with each step. For the first time, she was unsure if she would mock him again. There was something about humans that made her pause, a combination of courage, intelligence, and determination that she could not ignore. And so, in the heart of Zarathus, under the two blazing suns, the first meeting of two very different worlds had taken place. One was small, human, and underestimated. The other was alien, confident, and clever. Yet already, the balance of perception had shifted. Lyra's mind replayed the image of Ethan saving the drone over and over. How could a human act so decisively, so skillfully, without the advanced technology that aliens relied on? She did not know it yet, but the story of this human, and the story of humanity, was about to change her life forever. As the suns dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the plaza, Ethan paused and looked out at the city. He did not know what challenges lay ahead, but he knew one thing. Humans had survived worse than this. And he would prove that no alien, no matter how clever, could underestimate them. Lyra, hidden behind a column, watched him silently. Her emerald eyes softened with the first hint of respect, though her pride would not allow her to admit it. She had mocked him at first, but now, for the first time, she wondered if she had just met someone truly extraordinary. The stage was set. Two worlds had collided, and the tale of humans proving their worth among the stars was only beginning. The morning sun cast long golden streaks across the plaza of Zarathus. The city was alive with the usual hum of hovering vehicles and alien chatter. Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the square, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. Her emerald eyes followed Ethan, who had returned to the plaza after the previous day's incident. Lyra's friends nudged her playfully. "She's still watching him," one whispered, laughing softly. Lyra shot them a sharp glance. "He is not like any human I've met," she said. Her pride prevented her from admitting it aloud, but she could not ignore the truth. He had skill, courage, and quick thinking. Something about him intrigued her. Lyra decided that it was time to test him further. Not in life or death danger, but in skill and wit. The kind that could show whether humans were truly clever or just lucky. She sent a small message to the plaza's information boards, an official challenge for anyone to attempt the Zarathus trial of skill. Ethan, walking among the stalls, noticed the notice glowing on a board. It read, "A challenge for all newcomers, navigate the obstacle course of Zarathus. Prove your skill or admit your weakness." He looked around. The plaza had grown busy, and a crowd had gathered near the obstacle course, a series of platforms, swinging energy beams, and moving hover panels designed to test agility and intelligence. Lyra appeared from the side, stepping confidently into view. Her gaze met Ethan's, and a smile tugged at her lips. "You dare to accept?" she asked, her voice light but carrying a sharp edge. Ethan nodded. "I accept. Humans are not afraid of challenges." Lyra laughed softly, but there was no mockery this time. She wanted to see what he could do, to witness the limits of human skill. The crowd parted as the trial began. The first obstacle was a series of floating panels, each hovering above a glowing pit of liquid energy. Many aliens crossed easily, their long legs and flexible bodies giving them an advantage. Ethan studied the distance between panels. He took a deep breath, calculating each jump. His legs pushed off the edge, and he leapt with precision, landing on the first panel. The crowd murmured. Humans were not known for such agility. Ethan moved with careful rhythm, balancing and leaping without hesitation. Some of the alien spectators began to whisper among themselves, impressed by his coordination. The second obstacle was a rotating energy beam, spinning like a horizontal wheel. Many aliens could reach it with ease, grabbing the bar and swinging across. Ethan waited for the perfect moment, then jumped, grabbing the bar and using his momentum to swing forward. He landed safely on the platform at the other end. Lyra's emerald eyes widened. The human was not only brave, he was precise. Every movement showed thought, calculation, and courage. She felt a small pang of envy, though she quickly pushed it aside. The third obstacle was the most difficult, a series of floating crates that moved unpredictably. Each crate carried a glowing orb, like the ones Ethan had stabilized in the plaza yesterday. The challenge was not only to cross without falling, but also to keep the orbs steady. Ethan approached the first crate carefully. He observed the speed and pattern of movement, timing his steps perfectly. He leapt, landing lightly and steadying the orb with one hand. The crowd gasped softly. No human had ever attempted this trial before, and none had completed it without using external assistance. Lyra tilted her head, studying him intently. "Impressive," she murmured, almost to herself. "He thinks differently than we do." Ethan continued through the course, using small but clever adjustments to keep his balance. He shifted his weight, leaned slightly, and even used the crate's momentum to propel himself forward. His actions were fluid, a combination of human intuition and careful observation. Halfway through, a minor disaster struck. One crate tilted dangerously, sending its orb rolling toward the edge. Ethan reacted instantly, diving to catch it. He steadied the crate with his free hand and adjusted his foot to maintain balance. The orb glowed steadily again, and he continued without losing speed. The crowd erupted in quiet amazement. Aliens whispered among themselves, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Humans were underestimated everywhere, and this one was proving them wrong. Lyra stepped forward, unable to hide her curiosity. "How do you do this?" she asked, though she did not expect a detailed answer. She already saw that he had a mind that worked differently from hers or anyone else's in the plaza. Ethan landed on the final platform, breathing steadily but smiling. "Humans adapt," he said simply. "We use our mind when our body is not enough. That is how we survive." The crowd watched in stunned silence. Even Lyra's friends looked at him with newfound respect. She herself felt a mixture of surprise and admiration. For the first time, she realized that human cleverness was not about strength or size. It was about thinking, planning, and acting in unexpected ways. Lyra's pride pushed her to speak. "Not bad, human," she said, her voice calm but carrying a hint of awe. "But this was just a trial. True skill is shown when things go wrong, not when everything works as expected." Ethan's smile widened slightly. "Then let's see what happens," he said. Almost immediately, a loud alarm echoed across the plaza. A transport drone had malfunctioned, its cargo of glowing energy cores swinging wildly above the crowd. Panic spread quickly. Young aliens screamed and some froze, unsure what to do. Ethan did not hesitate. He scanned the situation, quickly calculating the drone's trajectory. The nearest support beam was just within reach. He sprinted, leapt, and grabbed the drone's control panel. With careful adjustments, he stabilized its movement, guiding it away from the crowd. The crowd erupted into cheers. Even Lyra's friends stared at him, wide-eyed. Lyra herself could not speak. She stood frozen, her mind racing. This human... He did not panic. He acted decisively, thinking faster than anyone else present. When the drone landed safely, Ethan climbed down and offered a polite nod to Lyra. "I hope no one was hurt," he said quietly. Lyra opened her mouth to reply, but the words failed her. The playful mockery she had planned was gone. In its place was something new: respect, curiosity, and perhaps even admiration. Finally, she said, "Humans are more capable than I thought." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it carried weight. "I will admit, you are clever." Ethan nodded. "Thank you," he said simply. "Humans often surprise those who underestimate us." Lyra stepped back, her mind racing. She had spent her life believing humans were weak, incapable, and easy to mock. Yet here was proof that she had been wrong. One human had faced challenges she had thought impossible for his kind, and had succeeded. The plaza slowly returned to normal. Aliens returned to their business, though whispers about the humans spread quickly. Lyra, however, remained quiet, watching Ethan move through the crowd. She realized that this was only the beginning. If a single human could accomplish so much, what could an entire species do? Her pride prevented her from showing it openly, but a thought crept into her mind. Humans might be more important in the galaxy than anyone had realized. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could learn something from them herself. As the suns moved higher in the sky, casting bright light across the plaza, Lyra made a quiet decision. She would continue to observe this human, test him, and perhaps even challenge him again. But now, the tone had changed. It was no longer mockery. It was curiosity, respectful, cautious, and full of potential. Ethan, unaware of the silent resolution forming behind the silver-haired girl, continued to explore the plaza. Every corner, every movement, every piece of technology was a new puzzle to understand. He had proven himself once, but he knew there were greater challenges ahead. Humans were clever, adaptable, and determined. And wherever the path led, he would continue to show that humans could rise to any challenge, even among the stars. Lyra watched him from a distance, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. The game was no longer about teasing. It was about understanding. And in that understanding, a new story was beginning, one that would challenge her assumptions, test her pride, and perhaps even change the way her people saw humanity forever. The stage was set for the next encounter. The human had survived mockery, trials, and danger. But the real test, the one that would reveal the true power of humans, was still to come. And Lyra, for the first time, was unsure if she was ready for what she might learn. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the city of Zarathus, painting the towering structures in shades of gold and bronze. The plaza had returned to its usual rhythm, but the memory of the humans' actions lingered. Lyra walked through the streets, her mind spinning. She had watched Ethan save the drone, navigate the trial, and handle obstacles with skill and precision. Every action he took challenged what she had believed about humans. Normally, she would have mocked a human's mistakes, laughed at their struggles, and moved on. But Ethan was different. He was capable, clever, brave. Lyra's curiosity finally overcame her pride. She approached him as he examined a small alien device displayed in a shop window. "Human," she said, her voice calm, though her emerald eyes were sharp. "You have impressed me. But I have a question. Where are you from?" Ethan turned, smiling politely. "I come from a human colony far from here," he said. "It is not on any major map of the galaxy." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "A colony? Surely you come from one of the well-known planets? Humans are small in number. You cannot be extraordinary by chance alone." Her voice carried both challenge and skepticism. Ethan hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "My people, my home, is one of the few human colonies that survived a disaster centuries ago. Our world was almost destroyed. Few humans remained alive, but we rebuilt. We learned to adapt, to survive, and to thrive even when others thought we were finished." Lyra froze. Her usual sharp tongue, ready to mock or tease, died on her lips. She took a step back, her hands gripping the edges of her tunic. The bustling sounds of the plaza seemed to fade. The crowd around them blurred into background noise as her mind tried to process his words. "Survived. A disaster?" she repeated slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "All of you survived?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. Humans are not the strongest or the fastest. But we learn, we adapt, and we work together. We survive where others might fail." His eyes held a quiet pride, a confidence not born from arrogance but from experience. Lyra's thoughts raced. She had heard legends about humans, stories that painted them as small, fragile, and unremarkable. But here was one standing before her, calm and capable, speaking of a history filled with survival against impossible odds. Every word he spoke shattered the assumptions she had carried her whole life. For a long moment, she said nothing. She simply stared at him, the mockery she had intended now completely replaced by awe. The silver-haired girl who had once laughed at the human's awkwardness now found herself trembling slightly, not from fear, but from disbelief. How did you survive?" she asked finally, her voice quiet and uneven. Ethan smiled gently. "We never gave up. We used what we had, learned from our mistakes, and worked together. Every challenge taught us something new. Humans are clever in ways that others may not expect." Lyra's mind was flooded with images of her own people. tall, strong, and technologically advanced, who often relied on their physical abilities and superior technology. She realized that she had underestimated humans entirely. Physical strength, advanced tools, and speed were impressive, yes, but intelligence, adaptability, and resilience could surpass all of those. You mean humans could survive alone? Without this? Lyra gestured vaguely at the bustling alien city around them. Without advanced technology? Ethan nodded. We used what we had. We built machines, yes, but our greatest tools were our minds and our cooperation. Even when our world was in ruins, we survived. And we continue to grow stronger every day. Lyra's breath caught. She had mocked him for being human, for being small, for struggling to adapt to alien society. But now, she could not find any words to continue her teasing. The very foundation of her assumptions had been shaken. Human, she whispered almost reverently. I never knew. Ethan tilted his head. Most do not, he said simply. Many underestimate humans because of our size or our beginnings, but we prove ourselves every time we face a challenge. Even here, on Zarathus, I hope to show that humans can succeed anywhere. Lyra took a step back, her mind racing. The plaza around them had become alive again, but she barely noticed the crowd, the lights, or the hovering vehicles. All she could focus on was the human before her, small yet extraordinary, clever, brave, and unafraid to face danger with nothing but his mind and determination. A quiet murmur spread among the nearby aliens. Some had overheard parts of Ethan's story. They exchanged glances, whispers growing louder as they realized the significance of his words. Humans, thought to be weak and fragile, had survived extinction and rebuilt themselves. Some even nodded in respect. Lyra's friends nudged her, confused by her sudden silence. "What's wrong with you?" one whispered. "He's just a human." Lyra shook her head slowly, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "He is not just a human," she said quietly. "He is proof that humans are more than anyone realizes." Ethan watched her carefully, sensing the shift in her attitude. The mocking tone of the first day was gone, replaced by curiosity and something deeper, an understanding that humans might be a species worth respecting, maybe even fearing in the best sense. "You see," Ethan said softly, "it is not our size, our speed, or our technology that makes humans strong. It is our mind, our courage, and our willingness to keep going when others give up. That is why we survive." Lyra's mind reeled. Her entire worldview was being challenged in the span of a few minutes. Humans, she realized, were underestimated at every turn, and this one human had just shown her how wrong she, and perhaps all aliens, had been. For a long moment she could not speak. Her emerald eyes were wide, her usual sharp expression softened by awe. She had mocked him, laughed at him, and now she felt something unfamiliar. Respect. Genuine, deep respect. Finally she said, her voice barely above a whisper, You are extraordinary." Ethan smiled gently, unshaken by her words. "I am human," he said simply. "And humans can be extraordinary. We have survived when others thought we could not. We continue to grow, learn, and overcome. That is our origin, and that is our strength." Lyra froze completely. The plaza around them seemed to blur as she took in his words. She had never imagined that humans could endure, adapt, and thrive in the face of almost total destruction. The mockery she had planned had vanished entirely. The crowd, sensing the gravity of the moment, fell silent. Even Lyra's friends stopped whispering, watching the exchange with wide eyes. This human, who had once seemed small and insignificant, now stood as a symbol of resilience and intelligence. Lyra's pride struggled against the new reality she faced. She had been ready to ridicule, to prove her superiority. But now, she realized that humans were capable of greatness in ways she had never understood. She could no longer see him as weak or small. You survived everything?" she asked again, almost incredulously. Ethan nodded. "Yes, and we will continue to survive, wherever we are, whatever challenges we face. Humans are clever, adaptable, and determined. And I hope to show that even here, among aliens, we can make a difference." Lyra could only stare. Her mockery, her teasing, even her laughter, all of it had vanished. In its place was awe, curiosity, and a quiet respect that she could not hide. For the first time, she understood that humans were not to be underestimated, and in that moment, she realized something else. This was only one human. If one could do this, what could an entire species accomplish? The plaza slowly returned to its usual activity, but Lyra remained frozen for a few moments longer, her mind processing the revelation. Humans. Extraordinary. Clever. Resilient. Survivors. Ethan continued walking through the plaza, calm and focused, unaware of the storm he had stirred in her mind. And Lyra, the alien girl who had once mocked him, now understood that the story of humans was far greater than she had ever imagined. The encounter had changed everything. The stage was set for the next chapter, growing respect, shared challenges, and the first true bonds between alien and human. Lyra could no longer see Ethan as a joke. He had proven the truth of his people, and in doing so, he had frozen her world, if only for a moment. The city of Zarathus glowed under the pale light of the twin moons. The streets, normally filled with the hum of hovering vehicles and alien chatter, were quieter now. The glow of neon panels reflected off the polished towers, casting long shadows across the plaza, where Lyra and Ethan had first met. Lyra walked beside Ethan, her steps careful, her eyes bright with thought. The revelation of Ethan's origin still lingered in her mind. She could not stop thinking about the humans' courage and cleverness. Humans, she realized, were far more capable than anyone had assumed. Today, however, the two were not walking for leisure. A crisis had appeared in the outskirts of the city. Reports indicated that an energy containment field in an abandoned research facility had destabilized. If it exploded, it could destroy an entire sector of Zarathus. Lyra glanced at Ethan, her expression unreadable. "Do you understand the danger?" she asked. Ethan nodded calmly. "Yes, but humans face danger all the time. We adapt, plan, and act." Lyra hesitated, then allowed herself a small smile. "Very well, human. Let us see if your words match your actions." The journey to the facility was tense. Hover vehicles moved quickly through the sky lanes, dodging obstacles with practiced precision. Ethan observed everything carefully: the patterns of alien traffic, the use of gravity currents, and the subtle controls of the vehicle. When they arrived, the scene was chaotic. The containment field flickered violently, sparks of energy dancing in the air. Alien engineers were shouting instructions, but none could stabilize the field. The energy cores inside the facility threatened to overload, and the risk of explosion loomed large. Lyra turned to Ethan. "This is not a trial course," she said, her voice serious. "One wrong move, and we could all be dead. Are you ready?" Ethan nodded. "I am ready." His calm demeanor inspired confidence. Despite his human size, he carried himself with quiet authority, a presence that demanded attention without arrogance. The pair entered the facility. The air inside buzzed with static energy. Panels flickered, and warning lights painted the walls in harsh red and yellow streaks. Alien engineers moved quickly, but every attempt to stabilize the energy field failed. Ethan examined the control panels. Alien technology was unfamiliar, but his human intuition allowed him to notice patterns that others overlooked. He pointed out a small sequence of controls overlooked by the engineers. "If you redirect energy through these auxiliary circuits," he said, "we can stabilize the cores gradually." Lyra's eyes widened. "You see what I did not?" she asked, a hint of amazement in her voice. "You understand our technology just by observing?" Ethan shrugged. "Humans are adaptable. We learn quickly when the stakes are high." Working together, Lyra and Ethan carefully implemented his plan. Ethan guided the engineers through the sequence, explaining in simple terms how to balance the energy flow. Lyra followed his instructions, watching closely, impressed by his calm and methodical approach. Suddenly, one of the energy cores began to surge unexpectedly. Sparks shot across the room and the floor trembled. Panic flashed in the eyes of the engineers. "Stay calm," Ethan said firmly. "Use the secondary regulators and divert energy here." He pointed precisely, moving quickly to adjust a series of levers and switches. His hands were steady, his mind focused. Lyra stepped in to assist, holding panels in place and rerouting the power. She had never worked so closely with a human before, and yet she trusted his decisions completely. Every action he took was calculated, precise, and effective. Slowly, the energy cores stabilized. The buzzing and flickering of lights softened. Engineers cheered softly, relieved that disaster had been averted. Lyra turned to Ethan, her emerald eyes wide with genuine admiration. You saved the facility," she said. Her voice was quiet but filled with awe. "I have never seen anyone handle such a crisis so calmly." Ethan smiled, brushing a stray lock of hair from his face. "Humans survive by thinking, planning, and acting. We do not panic when danger comes. We adapt." Lyra nodded, taking a step back. She felt a deep sense of respect and something more, curiosity about humans that she could not ignore. For the first time, she saw them not as small, weak beings, but as clever, capable, and determined. The engineers moved to secure the facility further, but Lyra and Ethan stayed behind for a moment. "Tell me," Lyra asked, her tone thoughtful, "how do humans manage to stay so calm, so focused when everything is falling apart?" Ethan looked at her and shrugged lightly. "It is what we have learned. Our home world taught us resilience. Our history taught us to face impossible challenges, and we survive because we think, we adapt, and we work together." Lyra's mind turned over his words. Humans surviving impossible challenges, humans rising from destruction, humans proving themselves among the stars. It was almost unimaginable, yet here he stood, a living example of the truth. Suddenly, a smaller alarm sounded in the facility. A section of the floor was beginning to give way. Ethan moved instinctively, calculating the weight of the panels and the trajectory of the energy conduits. He shouted instructions to Lyra, who adjusted levers and stabilized the floor just in time. "You think too fast," she muttered under her breath, shaking her head. "It is impossible to keep up." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans are not fast in the way you think, but we are careful observers. We notice patterns and act before mistakes become disasters." The remaining engineers watched in silence, impressed by the humans' leadership. For once, size and species did not matter. What mattered was intelligence, courage, and the ability to act under pressure. When the final panel was secured, Ethan stepped back, breathing steadily. "The facility is stable," he said simply. "There is no immediate danger." Lyra studied him closely. She had come into this mission skeptical, even cautious, but now she felt a profound respect for him and for humanity. "You are remarkable," she admitted softly. "I did not expect this." Ethan's smile was calm, confident. "Humans often exceed expectations," he said. "We do not give up no matter the odds." Lyra nodded slowly. Her pride prevented her from saying more. But her mind was alive with new possibilities. She realized that humans were not only clever, they could inspire change, create solutions, and act decisively where others might falter. As they left the facility, the city lights reflecting in the polished towers around them, Lyra finally spoke again. "Perhaps humans are worth watching more closely," she said, a thoughtful tone in her voice. Ethan glanced at her. "You will see more. Humans do not rely solely on strength or numbers. We use our minds, our courage, and our cooperation. That is what makes us strong." Lyra smiled faintly. "You may have changed my perception of humans, Ethan, but I am not finished testing you yet." Ethan chuckled softly. "I would not expect anything less. Humans are always ready for a challenge." Together, they walked through the quiet city streets. The glow of the twin moons reflected on Ethan's determined face and Lyra's thoughtful expression. In the quiet moments between missions and crises, a bond was forming, one built on respect, trust, and a growing understanding of each other's strengths. Lyra's pride, once ready to mock and belittle, had shifted. She now understood that humans were capable of far more than she had imagined, and Ethan, steady and calm, had shown her that courage and intelligence could surpass any expectation. The night deepened, and the city's lights cast long reflections on the polished surfaces. Lyra finally spoke, her voice softer than before. "Human, you are different. I may have mocked you at first, but now I see. Perhaps humans are extraordinary in ways I cannot yet comprehend." Ethan smiled, a quiet confidence in his eyes. "Humans are often underestimated," he said, "but we prove ourselves, one challenge at a time." Lyra nodded, a small but genuine smile forming. She realized that this was only the beginning. Humans had a history of surviving the impossible, and she had seen only the beginning of what they could accomplish. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged through shared danger, quick thinking, and mutual respect. Lyra knew that the coming days would test both of them, but she also knew that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they left the facility behind and returned to the city, the quiet understanding between them spoke louder than words. Humans, she realized, were not small or weak. They were clever, resilient, and determined. And she had been privileged to witness the strength of one of them firsthand. The stage was set for the next chapter. Humans had proven their worth, but the galaxy would soon offer new tests, new dangers, and new opportunities for courage and ingenuity. And Lyra, who had once mocked, was now ready to see humans for what they truly were: extraordinary. The twin suns of Zarathus dipped low on the horizon, casting long golden streaks across the city. The streets were alive with the hum of hover vehicles and the chatter of aliens preparing for the evening. Yet the central plaza, where Ethan and Lyra had first met, had a tension in the air unlike any other day. A crisis had struck once again. A rogue energy core, much larger than the ones Ethan had handled before, had broken free from the city's containment grid. It floated above the city, spinning violently and emitting powerful energy waves. If it crashed, it would destroy multiple districts. Lyra stood at the edge of the plaza, her silver hair glowing under the setting suns. Her emerald eyes tracked the core as it moved dangerously. She turned to Ethan, her voice sharp and urgent. "This is no ordinary threat. Are you ready, human?" Ethan's expression was calm yet determined. "I am ready. Humans face danger every day, and we survive by thinking quickly and acting decisively." The crowd of aliens had gathered, their whispers filled with worry and curiosity. Many remembered Ethan's previous feats, the drone, the obstacle course, and the research facility, but this challenge was larger and more dangerous. It would test not only skill but courage. Lyra and Ethan moved quickly through the plaza, heading toward the energy core's projected path. Alien engineers scrambled to set up stabilizing fields, but their technology alone would not be enough. Ethan observed the energy waves, noting the patterns and timing. His human mind worked rapidly, calculating angles, energy flows, and potential weak points. "There," he said, pointing to the core. "The energy field is unstable on the lower side. If we redirect it using temporary gravity anchors, we can slow its fall. Then we can stabilize it completely with controlled containment." Lyra nodded, impressed. "You understand our technology faster than anyone I know." She moved beside him, adjusting the alien equipment as he instructed. "Show me what to do." The plan was risky. Gravity anchors had to be placed precisely, and timing had to be perfect. A single miscalculation could send the energy core crashing into the city. Yet Ethan's calm confidence inspired those around him. With Lyra's help, Ethan coordinated the placement of the anchors. They worked quickly, moving from one anchor point to another, shouting instructions to the engineers and making adjustments as they went. The energy core tilted slightly but did not fall. "Careful," Ethan warned. "It is still unstable. Focus on the synchronization of the fields. One false move, and it could be catastrophic." Lyra followed his guidance without hesitation. Together, human and alien worked in perfect sync. Ethan's calculations, combined with Lyra's knowledge of alien technology, created a solution neither could achieve alone. As the sun set completely, the city held its breath. The final adjustment was made. Ethan directed the engineers to activate the stabilizers in sequence. The core trembled, sparks flying, then slowly began to settle. The energy waves calmed. The floating core was steady, suspended safely above the city. The crowd erupted in cheers. Aliens who had doubted humans' abilities now stared in awe. Lyra, standing beside Ethan, felt a mixture of relief and admiration. She turned to him, her usual sharp expression softened. "You did it," she said quietly. "You saved the city." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans survive by thinking, adapting, and cooperating. We do not rely on luck or size. We rely on our minds and determination." Lyra nodded, her respect for him evident. "I underestimated your kind," she admitted. "I mocked you, laughed at you. But now I see humans differently. You are clever, courageous, and capable in ways I never imagined." Ethan inclined his head politely. "Thank you. Humans often surprise others. But we also surprise ourselves. That is why we keep learning and growing." The alien engineers approached, offering nods of respect. Some even bowed slightly, a sign of high honor in their culture. The plaza was filled with whispers of admiration and awe. Lyra's friends, once ready to mock Ethan, now looked at him with clear astonishment. Lyra studied him closely. "I suppose," she began, pausing as she struggled to find the right words, "that perhaps humans are not to be underestimated. Not by aliens, not by anyone." Ethan smiled gently. "We are often underestimated," he said, "but we prove ourselves in every challenge we face. Today was just another example. Tomorrow, there will be more challenges, and we will meet them, just as we always have." Lyra's mind raced. She realized that humans were not just clever, they could inspire change, lead, and act decisively when others faltered. Their resilience and intelligence were traits that no alien technology could match, and Ethan had demonstrated that perfectly. The twin moons reflected off her eyes as she spoke again. "You've shown me the truth, Ethan. One human can make a difference among aliens, and perhaps your kind will one day be recognized for your true potential." Ethan's gaze was steady, his voice calm but confident. "Humans have survived the impossible before. We will continue to do so, and we will earn the respect of others by our actions, not just our words." Lyra's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and admiration. She had mocked him, doubted him, and even laughed at him. But now she realized the truth. Humans were extraordinary. Not because of size or strength, but because of their minds, courage, and determination. The plaza slowly quieted as the city returned to normal. Ethan and Lyra stood together, watching as engineers finished securing the area. The humans' cleverness, combined with alien technology, had saved countless lives and prevented disaster. "You've proven humans' worth today," Lyra said softly. "I can no longer see your kind as weak or unremarkable. You have earned my respect." Ethan inclined his head politely. "Respect is earned through actions. Humans continue to learn, adapt, and prove themselves every day. Today was just one example." Lyra's friends gathered around, nodding to Ethan with newfound admiration. Even the crowd that had once whispered doubt now whispered praise. Humans, it seemed, could stand proudly among the stars. Lyra looked at Ethan, her smile genuine. "Perhaps your kind is ready to work with aliens, not just survive among them." Ethan returned her smile. "Humans thrive when we cooperate, just as we survive when we adapt. Together, humans and aliens can achieve more than either could alone." The plaza echoed with quiet murmurs of agreement. Aliens began discussing the possibility of more collaboration, inspired by the human who had saved the city. Lyra's emerald eyes sparkled with thought. She had seen mockery turn to respect, doubt turn to admiration, and skepticism turn to trust. "You know, Ethan," she said after a pause, "I mocked you at first. I thought you would be clumsy, small, and weak, but I was wrong, completely wrong." Ethan chuckled softly. "It is easy to underestimate humans, but we often surprise those who do." Lyra shook her head, smiling faintly. "Today you've proven that one human can make a difference. One human can change minds. One human can even save a city. And perhaps you are only the beginning." Ethan looked up at the sky, where the twin moons reflected softly on the city below. "Humans have survived worse than this, and wherever the challenge, we will continue to rise, to adapt, and to prove ourselves. That is who we are." Lyra nodded. For the first time, she truly understood the strength of humanity. She had mocked, doubted, and even feared underestimation, but now she could see clearly. Humans were clever, courageous, and capable of extraordinary things. As the night deepened, the city lights shimmered across the plaza. The story of one human had spread among the aliens, inspiring respect and admiration. And at the heart of it all, Ethan stood quietly, confident in the strength of his people and the lessons they carried. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm and sincere. "You've earned not just respect, Ethan, but friendship. And perhaps together we can show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." Ethan nodded. "Humans thrive when we work together. And I believe that together we can achieve far more than anyone could imagine." The twin moons cast long reflections across the plaza, and in that light, a bond was formed. One of respect, trust, and the knowledge that humans could rise to any challenge, even among aliens who had once mocked them. The tale of the human who had proven his people's worth would be told for generations. One human, clever and courageous, had stood among the stars and shown that even the smallest could achieve greatness. And Lyra, the alien girl who had once mocked him, now smiled with genuine admiration, knowing she had witnessed something extraordinary: the power, resilience, and brilliance of humanity. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and wonders. But one truth had become clear: humans were a force to be reckoned with, and their story had only just begun.